It's 11:33 a.m. Pacific time, and as of 2 minutes ago, the Washington Post is reporting that a D.C. jury has found Shawn Dunn, the sandwich guy, not guilty of assaulting federal agents with a Subway sandwich. Now, lest we forget, Shawn Dunn, who was a Department of Justice employee himself and has become a folk hero in Washington, D.C. for chucking a Subway sandwich at a federal agent, was initially brought up by Donald Trump's corrupt Department of Justice on felony assault charges. Are you fucking kidding me? A grand jury failed to bring an indictment against him. And so Jeanine Pirro, Fox News host turned member of Donald Trump's Department of Justice, had to downgrade it to a misdemeanor charge. And Shawn Dunn's trial was this week. And also remember that when charges were initially filed, Dunn offered to turn himself in, and the regime was like, no, we want to make a spectacle out of this. We're going to make an example out of you. So they sent armed troops to his apartment and then filmed him being arrested, because remember, it's all about the propaganda, right? They want to produce propaganda footage that they can put out. Everything to the regime is like a fucking reality TV show, which makes sense when you consider how many people that work for the regime were previously on Fox News, and the fact that Donald Trump himself is just a glorified grifter billionaire who was a reality TV show host himself. Right, so Pam Bondi's Department of Justice really thought that this was the case where they're going to intimidate Americans into not standing up against ICE. And I know we talk about the incompetence of the regime, that this is cargo cult fascism and they don't know what the fuck they're doing. But somebody didn't think how this PR was going to play out, because they then had to go to court and try and make the case Dunn met the legal criteria for assault by chucking a sandwich at somebody. Remember, a grand jury would not indict Shawn Dunn on felony charges. There's two places in our court system where we, the people, still have all the power. Even if the Trump regime is trying to manipulate the courts, even if the Department of Justice is a Department of Injustice, we, the people, still have the power at two places. One is at the grand jury level, where we can be like, we're not fucking bringing felony charges. No. And the other is when you get a trial with a jury of your peers, like Shawn had this week. When his trial began, I posted on Blue Sky being like, hey y'all, jury nullification, that's a thing. Also known as jury equity, this is when a jury decides to render a not guilty verdict, even though maybe there was evidence for a conviction. The whole point of jury nullification is that the jury is like, this law is unjust, or the punishment is too harsh, or the justice system is being weaponized against the defendant. Right, the classic example is where Americans refused to render guilty verdicts under the Fugitive Slave Act. I also want to give a shout out here to Molly Roberts on Blue Sky, who was watching the footage of the trial and letting us know what the law enforcement folks were testifying. Because actually, I think in Mr. Dunn's case here, again, entirely lay opinion, I'm not an attorney, I don't think jury nullification was even necessary, right? It didn't meet the criteria of the charges. So again, referencing Molly's tracking of the case, the government's argument here was that an ICE agent was hit with a sandwich. Having a sandwich spiked on your chest, is that offensive to a person with reasonable sensibilities? Certainly. We have an assault. Here we have the defendant it's a sandwich, but throwing it hard. So Larimore, this Customs and Border Patrol agent, tried to claim that he was hit with a sandwich so hard that he felt it through his ballistic armor on his chest. Armor that is made specifically to be strong enough to stop a bullet from piercing a soldier's heart. He went on to claim that the sandwich kind of exploded on his chest and he could smell onions and mustard. Oh my God, that's so terrible. That's so traumatic for you, buddy, as you're fucking slamming Americans to the ground and zip tying children. Of course, the defense pressed Agent Larimore on whether the sandwich had actually really exploded, because there was photographic evidence of it still wrapped up, lying on the ground. Sandwich hasn't exploded at all, has it? The defense asked. It looks like a bit is coming out toward the bottom, he replied. Y'all, this is just so, oh my God. Poor Shawn Dunn for having this done to him. The regime thought that this was going to be a winning move for them. They made a laughingstock of themselves. But they messed up this guy's life for several weeks. Of course, the agent also claimed that afterward he was receiving gag gifts from fellow officers. They sent him a sandwich plushie and a patch that said felony footlong. Okay, well, that's on fellow officers who decided to laugh in your face about what happened. That doesn't constitute assault. Sorry, my phone keeps dinging. People are texting me about the verdict. Please take this seriously, one poster on Blue Sky said. It's an assault with a deli weapon. Right, so the defense attorneys in the case said that assault requires a reasonable fear of immediate bodily harm, and none exists given the agent's long-sleeve shirt, long pants, boots, gloves, and ballistic vest that is created to keep you safe from rifle fire, and will definitely keep you safe from a sandwich. So jury nullification didn't even need to be a thing here. There was not sufficient evidence for assault, and Shawn Dunn has been found not guilty. He's been acquitted on this misdemeanor charge. What a tremendous waste of taxpayer resources, by the way. This was a spectacle. The DOJ wanted to make a spectacle, but it didn't turn out how they wanted. It didn't turn out how they wanted. They thought that they could bring Shawn up on these charges and it would teach him a lesson and it would intimidate all of the American people. They thought what they were going to do is say, hey, we can charge you with felony assault. We can put you in federal prison for even the most benign things like chucking a sandwich at a guy in full body armor. They really thought that that was going to be a winning move. They thought that that was going to get them a conviction. They thought that that was going to be them flexing their authoritarian muscles of, we can put you in prison. We can threaten you with prison and we can follow through on any little thing. Don't touch ICE. Don't touch Border Patrol. Don't interact with them. You should be terrified of them. Anything you do in anywhere near them could get you in federal prison, right? That was the message they were trying to send with this case. And they left with fucking egg on their face, with the smell of onions and mustard on their face. Please understand, this regime, really bad at authoritarianism. They're really bad. They are cargo cult fascists. They forgot the fact that at the end of the day, the people still have the power. We have the power at the ballot box, as we showed all of them this week. We have the power over the economy if we organize and exercise it. And ultimately, we still have the power within the justice system. They can try to prosecute these cases. They can try to weaponize the Justice Department to intimidate American citizens. But at the end of the day, there is still a jury of your peers. There are grand juries over and over and over again in DC saying, we will not indict on this. Are you fucking kidding me? And we are seeing not guilty today for Shawn Dunn. The people understand. The people understand the rule of law must prevail. And today it did.